Alrighty, welcome back to another video. So, Soul Exchange is back. This is I've really lost count of the number of Soul Exchange iterations that we have had over the past couple of years. I do believe this is number 8 or number 9. I can't remember exactly what it was, but based on the spoilers that were out, I think this has proven to be one of the best soul exchanges that has currently been released. I think the best one, going back a couple of soul exchanges, was the one where Ludwig and Alfrek were featured. And I think if you chose someone other than Ludwig or Alfrek at that time, I think it was a mistake not choosing either one of them. And then followed up by, I do believe, the Milena, Arco, and Luina soul exchange that came after that was pretty good. And then things started to go to hell a little bit after that. I think they weren't really good options, and they even had to reuse one of the featured ones before. Asterius, I think, being one of the ones in the previous soul exchange that has appeared twice. And well, now with the ever increasing number of new heroes that are out, whatever you see here are basically heroes that are pretty much already kind of outdated, but it's not really outdated in a sense, because these heroes are actually heroes that have been around for, there's some heroes here that hasn't even been around for a year yet. So it's a good option for, free to play, cheap to play players who have not indulged themselves in the previous two soul exchanges and want something new. Well, this is one good option. So as usual, the soul exchange, you need 10, 15 or 20 heroes, 5 stars, 10, 15 or 20 5-star heroes that you would be able to trade in and get one hero out of either one of these. Now remember, you only can do this once, so obviously the choice that you make can be a difficult one, especially if you want to choose multiple, or if you think multiple of these heroes will actually play a part in your roster. Now let's look at the 10 hero slot first. We have Uthragan, which is a 2023 hero of the month. Very fast, minimal damage, but quite a good poison damage over time hero. Not really someone that's really good, but I think it's one of the better hero of the months compared to some of the weaker ones, like Ariax or Liadria, both I think which are pretty useless. Uthragan can be pretty okay. I've seen double limit broken Uthragans dealing a lot of damage in terms of the poison damage. Not as much as the Scorpion Queen, but I think can be really useful as well. Costume Odin, much better class than the regular side. I do believe that when Costume Odin was in the beta, it wasn't actually giving mana generation, it was actually giving enemies mana degeneration, which would have made him so damn good. But the fact that they just made it such that the numbers are just being tweaked from the regular side makes this pretty bad now. 90% damage to all enemies at the base level is pathetic right now if you think about it. Even with this damage, with his attack stat as well as the special boost for double for the ether power, it's pretty weak actually. And 290% damage cap is actually really bad. So back in the day when Bera, Frigg, and Odin were the top 3, I think he was pretty good at that time, and now it's just so outdated. So not really something that I would recommend players for choosing. Another one is Yang Mai, 2021 hero of the month. Yang Mai was was kind of ambitious. The when she first came out, people were thinking that, hey, you know what, we could use her for mythic titans, we could use her for regular titans, and you can even use her for war, just because she has that 60% chance for additional hits up to 4 times. But with SG playing the odds and the placebo effect of SG playing the odds, it feels like this 60% chance rarely actually happens. So not again, even worse hero of the month compared to Utragan. Like if you had to choose between Utragan or Yang Mai, I would rather you guys choose Utragan, just because of the utility and how much better Utragan is compared to Yang Mai. The other one, Costume Snow White. Now, Costume Snow White is, I think, in this 10 slot heroes to be the best choice if you only have 10 heroes to swap. I think Costume Snow White can be really destructive together with simple heroes like Kirill, regular Kirill plus Costume Kirill. You're able to deal a lot of damage because you are dealing a total of about 500% damage, especially if you double limit breaker. She's going to be really, really powerful. Very simple utility, very simple concept to use, especially in Rush Wars. I think she'll be definitely devastating. You see certain top players even using her together with Tremor, together with I forgot the other hero that they normally use it with. I think it was Tremor and Milady. Yeah, Milady de Winter. Just to make sure, just to expand the amount of damage, to maximize the amount of damage that she can deal once she casts a special skill. So I think in terms of the 10 slots, I really like Costume Snow White as an option. Again, it's slow, so you would typically only use her in Rush Wars. But if you're able to stay alive, say for a good amount of time, even in normal wars, then you can use Snow White, combo together with Kirill, even Krampus or something like that, which would give certain amount of buffs. And watch the spark flies. Yeah. Alright, the last one for the 10 hero slot is Costume Francine. Francine used to be a really, really good hero in a sense that she gets to cleanse status ailments, but now with this kind of in the current era, I think people would only use Costume Francine against Mythic Titans, or not even Mythic Titans, because Jormungand doesn't get affected by defense down. But on regular Titans, you would want to use Francine if you don't have heroes like Phileas Fogg, you don't have heroes like Eve or Ferris. You need that elemental defense down, then you can kind of use Francine. But other than that, the damage is just too low, and she doesn't really give that much of utility anymore. So not something that I would consider. In fact, I do have 2 Costume Francines sitting in the bench that I've never leveled at all, and I just can't convince myself to actually level her just because of how low the utility is. I mean, sure, cleansing status ailments is good, but when you're going against heroes like, for example, Starwalker, Pophead, Pepperflame, Erlang, and all that, you don't really want to cleanse every turn because you just kill yourself. So you would want to normally pair that with some sort of like health boost, for example, and kind of make sure that you can stay alive through the cleansing. So not really a hero that I'm looking forward to. And as I mentioned, I think in the 10 hero slot, I think Costume Snow White is I think the best choice here. So let's look at the 15 heroes required. The first one is Dr. Moro, Costume Dr. Moro. So for the Season 4 costumes, you do have this special skill damage. No, not this one. This one. Increased damage against boosted health. So after this character casts their special skill, all allies deal plus 70% increased normal attack and special skill damage against targets with boosted health for 4 turns. And I do believe this will also affect the regular side if you're planning to use the regular side. It's just that you don't see it here because of the visual effects for elemental portals or wherever Dr. Moro is in a portal without the costume. But I do believe that if you get the costume, both sides will get this passive. I'm not too impressed with Dr. Moro costume. I think even Dr. Moro itself has hardly seen any play recently. Not really something that that would be useful. Next one is Derria. Now, Derria, for me, I do not have any preferences to any revivers. So Debria is one of those with the 40% chance to get revived with 20% HP, and I like the ordering in a sense that once each fallen ally has a chance to revive, they also get the health generation as well as the the defense increase as well, which is a good order of things. Um, I'm just not convinced. Like, you're going to see later on, like in the heroes that are coming up, there's going to be a hero that has 100% chance to revive, and I think if you want to get a reviver, that will probably be the best. Otherwise, I think spending 15 souls just to get Debra, I think it's not really the call you would want to make, especially since with the current meta changes into for rush wars, you don't really see revivers these days because you could just dump tiles into the reviver, and in the early game just to set up your tiles, and then the reviver firing before anyone is dead means that the reviver is pretty useless. Although with Debria, she does have the health generation and the defense up for allies, so that might be a point of consideration. But to me, I'm just not convinced. Like, if you were to choose Debria, I'm pretty sure if you're going to have to use Debria, especially when she's average speed in regular wars, if you're using her on offense, I would rather have a proper yellow stack where you can have yellows that deal damage rather than using her. The next one, Xiaotu, Luna hero, so very good against minions because she disables all minions, even the minions attacking as well. So she shuts down minions like Forces minions, Water Pipes minions, even the initial War of the Three Kingdom heroes that whose minions, when they attack, deal fire damage, or when they provide a certain counter attack for your allies as well. So Xiaotu pretty much shuts that off. Really strong snipe damage. I can see using Xiaotu especially against wars where you're facing minion tanks, although it's not very common these days, but there are still players out there who use water pipe a lot, who use forces in war defenses, who also use there's gonna be a new hero that's coming out with potential for being a very strong flank, which produces minions that are just crazy. So Xiaotu might be a point of consideration here. I do have Xiaotu at 370. I just don't want to expand the rings yet. But yeah, it could be a solid pickup as well if you don't have any of the Luna heroes. Although in my preference, I think I prefer Lao Hu over Xiaotu just for the speed. But you can't go wrong with Xiaotu at all. So the next one is Cinnamon, and who I think is the best 15 slot hero to choose. Deals 250% damage to all enemies, get frost damage, and all enemies get negative 54% defense against ice for 4 turns. If you can pair this with say a hero that hits all, an ice hero that hits all, you can actually deal quite a lot of damage with Cinnamon. So especially with Cinnamon having a way to kind of boost his mana, 5% health and 5% mana every time you get a minion on someone. Cinnamon can actually be quite fast, and you can pair this with someone like Sito, someone with Sobek, even with there's going to be a new blue hero as well that puts all enemies to sleep, and then you can, like, what you can do is use Cinnamon first, get them all to be having the defense down, put them all asleep, and then use even someone like Costume Leapers, for example, to just hit everyone pretty hard. So this will be something that I think for Cinnamon is really something that will be really strong in the right composition. Now obviously by its own, Cinnamon is actually not really that good. 250% damage to all enemies is actually quite low. the damage point is actually quite low in the current state of things. So that will be something to consider as well if you're going for cinnamon. But to me, I think cinnamon is really, really strong in this 15 slots. The last one here is Aconite. Aconite is one of the newer ninjas. I haven't really had time or much experiences against Aconite, but I think first charge is one of the better first charges that you have for a ninja. 200% damage to all enemies, and then you summon an 8% health minion that gives 60% counter attack. That's actually pretty good. And even at the second charge, so I do believe the only thing that increases is the HP of the minions and the amount of damage you deal. So this is a pretty good ninja as well. The only reason why I'm not placing it higher than cinnamon is because Aconite feels a little bit sluggish. I haven't actually seen like proper damage output from Aconite, and Aconite came out at the point where Ojima was still around. There was heroes like there were a lot of heroes that basically made it such that minions weren't really a factor. But with the legendary troops, that might change actually. 8% health at this point of time is pretty meh if you think about it. But because the legendary troops gives a lot of HP for your hero if you have the correct class on it. So for fighter class and cleric legendary troops, I do believe they give 40% health. So that means if you look at it, it's 40% health on 2000 HP, you get about another 5 to about 600 health, I think. It's either that or it gives about 7 to 800 health. I don't really know which one it was. But 2800 health, say for example, 8% out of 2800 is about I'm struggling to do the maths here. You get 4, 6. You get quite a beefy minion. It's what I'm trying to get at here. So 8% HP. Let me see if I can do the math. Oh my god. So 2800 times 8% is 4, 6, 16, 2. So you get about 200 HP with a 60% counter attack. So that means if they're going to deal quite a bit of damage, like for example, if a Shal hits, for example, if you're going against a Shal, you can use like Aconite, charge Aconite at first charge, and then whatever Shal damages hit, it pretty much just counter attacks and potentially just kills him off. And Aconite isn't affected by Changi as well, which is something good to consider as well, because if you're going against Changi on defense, Changi doesn't make it such that you can't cast minions. That's not how her skill operates. So in that sense, you can still cast Aconite even after getting hit by Changi, which is really, really good. So that's something to consider as well, and it will be my second pick. To me, like, I think cinnamon for me will be one of the best here, and then close second would be something like Aconite. Not really considering the other three. Xiaotu would be the third option if I were to just grade it as such, with costume Moro being the last one. Alright, the 20 hero slot. Now this is one of the best ones we've seen in a while. Narcissa, being one of the bards and being such that legendary troops give less mana compared to Styx or wizard troops. Having a bard in your team on offense can actually help you reach certain mana breakpoints that will actually help the team. And I really, really like Narcissa combined with heroes like Erlang Shen, combined with heroes like Lu He or Guardian Panther to kind of deal enough damage. She does give attack down to all enemies, which is really good. Resets status ailments, so you can reset something, for example, any damage over time effects, they get reset. And she also stops heroes from gaining mana properly. So something like, going against Nautica, for example, Nautica gives 33% mana to her sides. With Narcissa against her, she will only give about 16% mana, which will actually save you quite a bit. So I have Narcissa at double limit break, and I still use her. So it is definitely a point of consideration here to choose Narcissa, even though she is a bit outdated. The second one is and basically a very very strong, much stronger version compared to Finley, dealing high damage and then spreading to the others as long as the target had 50% more health, above 50% health threshold, and every time they cast their special skill while being hit in the next 4 turns, they get negative 34% attack, negative 34% defense, and negative 34% mana generation for 4 turns, which is really really strong. And I think she used to be one of the terrifying wings or flanks that you can just put her on and she'll be really really strong. I've never actually gotten her, even though I've tried pulling for her for quite some time. A bit outdated, definitely, in terms of stats, but then again, I still see players using N to their benefit, and it can be really really strong as well. So this is definitely one of the really good pickups that, if you want to improve your yellow offense teams, you can definitely pick up, and I think it's really really strong. Cupido from the Cupid family. Treat 295% damage to a target nearby enemy, so a hit 3 hero that gives mindless heal. So it's a mindless attack, but instead of dealing damage to the enemies, you're actually hitting and healing some of your allies. Whichever enemies hit their special skill, whichever enemy charges up their special skill, if they're hit with mindless heal, they will instead heal any one of your allies with the least amount of health. A really strong controller. I kind of like Cupido. I have him at 1 at the first limit break, and I've used him to success in quite a few wars as well, together with heroes like Ray to kind of dispel whatever nonsense taunt that they have or whatever protection that they have, and then you use Cupido to kind of control one side of the enemy lines, which is really really strong as well. Again, a bit slightly outdated stats, but you can actually use Cupido to good success. I think it's one of the better Cupid family heroes as well, compared to heroes like Kyberoi or even Himeros, or what's the other one? There's Elba as well, even Thonis. I think Cupido is one of the stronger ones, and definitely someone that has been definitely the picture and the face of the seasonal summons for the Cupid family. So I think it's really really strong as well. If you need a controller in red, Cupido is one of the best that you can have, in on par with other heroes like, for example, Hohenworth, or even someone like Ruffian and Nurgib, for example. The next one is Bubbles. So Bubbles is also part of the Mighty Pet family, a fast controller. So this one does 480% damage to the target, negative 44% damage to the target, and then you get shifting minus attack as well. So it has always been, when he first came out here, it was always a toss-up between, would you want to do high enough damage so that he just dies straight out, or do you want the shifting mindless attack utility to start spreading around to other people as well, to other enemies on the defense? It's really, I think at that point it was really a toss-up until it was kind of decided that you might as well just increase his attack high enough such that his 480% damage type actually just kills an opponent. But right now with legendary troops, I think it'll be, the shifting minus attack will actually be a little bit more helpful. It's just that in this current meta where Hathor, Vaishali, Nautica gets hurt by Bubbles a lot. But basically against any others like Costume Hathor or Vaishali, which are being clerics that can negate shifting minus attack, and they have protection as well, it's really hard to use Bubbles against them. Although Bubbles can really be something like a crux controller against a defense with the journey heroes. You can use You can use bubbles to kind of stop Xie Zijing from firing. You can use bubbles to stop Chang Yi from firing, or you can try to kill off the tank by bringing a heavy blue stack to kind of kill off Costume Hathor tanks, which I believe it's still the current meta. The current meta includes Costume Hathor, Nautica, Vaishali. So even against Nautica, it's still fine to kind of use bubbles as well, since she doesn't cleanse. So that's a point of consideration. I think bubbles is really, really strong as well. Just the utility seems a bit weird on her. I feel like the target getting negative 44% feels like do you really need that? But I do think like how you would perceive this hero is you can deal damage to a certain target, get him to lower his defenses, let the shifting mindless attack spread, and then you kill that particular target. So it's all depending on timing and how you play the board and how do you play around the team composition when you're bringing bubbles in that team. The final one, Athos, is one of the Musketeer family, a very fast minion controller that deals 470% damage to the target, destroys all minions from the target, gets 20% mana for each destroyed minion, so a chance to get up to 60% mana. The attack bypasses defensive buffs, so it bypasses counter attack, and then they regenerate HP, which is not really that too meaningful. I would think if you compare Athos with any one of the other 20 hero slots, I think Athos is the clear weakest around this 5. It's like, I mean, his utility doesn't even compare to the rest of the others. Like if I were to rank the 20 heroes right now based on the current meta, I would say Bubbles, Narcissa, and Cupido are the higher priority heroes that you would pick. And then you look at Anne and Athos as more like the damage dealers, so to speak. So that's basically my thoughts on the Soul Exchange. It's a really good thing that they are at least putting heroes that actually have use in the current meta. Like if you put in a legendary troop on any one of the 15 or 20 slot heroes, they can actually do quite a bit of damage, and they can actually survive long enough to actually be, do what they're supposed to do, basically. So my advice for this, I think this is one of the better Soul Exchanges, and if possible, I think you wouldn't want to miss this Soul Exchange. It was pretty fine to miss the other two the two Soul Exchanges back then. So hopefully that's what you did, and you now have enough heroes to kind of swap it out, especially if you're a free to play or you're cheap to play. I've been free to play for the past 3-4 months, and I gotta say it was kind of a struggle to actually get the heroes. That I was so lucky that I had excess heroes on the previous Soul Exchange, that I could just not really worry too much about collecting heroes. But the next Soul Exchange I'll probably be in a much more in a much bigger trouble collecting, if I were to choose from a 20 slot here. But my advice here, I think, look at your roster, figure out what are the gaps that are required in your roster, which one improves your war offense more. I think in terms of war defense, these heroes are not really at the level where you would consider them to be on defense, apart from someone like, say for example, Anne, or maybe Narcissa, or maybe Derria. But Derria, Revivers, again, I'm not a fan of Revivers on defense at all. So if you want to use Derria, you can probably use her as a clutch utility or flex utility in one of your off-color support slots in offense. Eonite as well. Cinnamon maybe you can use on defense, but it doesn't really pair well unless you go, say for example, you use Cinnamon and then you use someone like Satori, for example. Although Satori hits really, really hard by himself. So yeah, I think look through your roster, figure out what are the gaps that you need, figure out what the gaps are on your teams, and what would basically fit to get one good completion of a team on your roster, and then just pick from there. You can't really go wrong with most of these picks, I feel. So I'm going to do my soul exchange right now, because I had some time to think, and I thought, you know, I would have really loved to get bubbles, but bubbles, I don't have enough scopes, and I do have, I think, a total of 3 blue heroes in the queue before I would even consider leveling bubbles. But what I do need is actually, I do need a yellow hero to improve my offense. So my second choice, and which will ultimately be my first choice, is the big N. So let's go and do all this. Now someone in the comments is gonna say, holy shit, these are some heroes that you should have kept them locked for good. But I'm like, oh, bite me. These are heroes that I will never level duplicates of, so cry more. Alright, 20 heroes. Feels pretty sad to see them go, but it is what it is. Alright, finally get N after 1.5 years of her being out, I do believe. But yeah, that's my pick. Let me just... Oh wow, is the name really Figurehead of Corellia? I didn't even know that. Alright, my first. And the amount of heroes I am investing just to get a pirate, which, I'm going to figure out a team to use her in. There's going to be definitely some team I'm going to use her in. But at the very least, that empties out a slots for me. And that leaves me with 20 hero slots. Or to make sure you lock it in. So I'm going to lock N in right now. Make sure that you always lock your heroes, especially if you don't want to accidentally feed them off. If I can find where N is, she's going to be pretty low down the list. Where is she? There we go. Alright, I've done mine. Good luck in doing yours. Remember, this whole exchange is going to be around for another 3 days. So, take your time, make a decision. Don't rush into it. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. GG.